welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and Zangor Enlightened to that 6+++ show. I am your host, Tom. I'm back for State of Play, where we talk to some of the best players in the world about factions they're doing really well with, get into the nitty-gritty of how that army plays, and some tricks and tools for you, the listener, to take away in your 40k adventures. I'm very excited because today I think we probably can make the case to say we are joined by the best active 40k player in the world, I would say. I don't think he's a mile off. He's been smashing it. He won the LGT not so long ago, and he's been on an absolute tear. It's a name that has become quite infamous. It is the lovely Liam VSL. Liam, how are you doing?
Good. Hello, everybody. Thank you to have me here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I listened to you. I can't remember what army it was you were talking about. I listened to you on a show a little while ago, and I just remember coming away thinking, yeah, we've definitely got to get him on at some point, because it seems like a guy that really had a lot of fun and love for the game, as well as being really, really good at it. So obviously tonight we're talking about Thousand Suns, because you've been running them lately, and they're one of the armies you sort of specialize in. But before we do that, I think it would be, certainly for me and for the listener, I'd be really interested to know a little bit about your background in 40k, right? What's the story up till this point?
So I start 40k when I was like 12 years old, like classic shit, you start with like your classmate and like play toys basically. And then I went back to that like in 2017, like 7 years now, or something like that, back to the game and start to play a bit more frequently in like my local shop and stuff like that. And like the year before COVID, basically, I start to play a lot more like tournament and stuff that start to go in my WTC, my national team in Belgium, stuff like that. So got to learn the game a bit like in depth and like how to play competitive. And when COVID happened, I start to play a lot of TTS. And it's where I start to become a bit famous in a way that I was playing a lot of online events. I meet a lot of like good name of the community now, like Fuchini and stuff like that back then on Discord during COVID. So like that was like where I got my weapon, I want to say, like when I learned the game in depth, start to play a lot more game as well, because playing on TTS is really easy, so stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're someone who is well known for playing a lot, being very active on TTS and putting the work in. But also for coming up with and cooking up these really, really scary, often quite meta-defining lists, right? And doing some quite unusual things as well. I always keep an eye on your Eldari list, because they're always a bit different. They've always got something interesting going on. But also I remember watching you, I can't remember which round it was at LGT, but just watching the use of this CSM list, right? The kind of layer on layer attack, and the way it kind of picked out and surrounded the Eldar and just took them apart in that game. It was absolutely incredible. So yeah, as I say, it's a name that has now become a bit of a household name. And obviously you're in Team Ignite these days, is that right?
Yes. So I have my, I want to say like my international team, which is Ignite, where we got to play a lot of like UKTC event mainly, because most of the players are based in UK, but we're also playing other events. So that's like a lovely chat, a group chat to talk with everybody, like
it's
all
not
those
bad.
good players together, like to improve himself and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, fantastic. Good people to bounce ideas off, I can imagine. And I say, and again, you as someone who, you're hearing Ignite players talk, and they're talking about someone, and you can tell they're very impressed. And you're like, okay, who is this guy that's scaring even the Ignite players? I want to know who that guy is. So yeah, I mean, an incredible rise, man. You've had a wonderful run, and I assume you'll be playing with Belgium at the WTC this year.
Yeah, I'm the captain of Belgium.
Fantastic, yeah. Excellent. All right, wonderful. Right, well, that's a great background, and now we'll start talking about Thousand Suns, because it's an army. I'm going to be honest, Liam. I tried to play Thousand Suns. I find it hard work. They're one I've never quite figured them out, and I'm all right at 40k, but this is an army that just eludes me. I never feel like I consistently get results with this thing. So it's time I talk to someone who understands them properly to get some advice, because I've seen them popping back up, particularly in teams recently. They've kind of reappeared in the lineups, which I think is really interesting. So I guess I'm curious, what's your kind of background with the army first and foremost? Where does your kind of experience with Thousand Suns begin?
So I start in 8 back in the Chaos Soup. So like at that point I start my Tson army back then. And then I think it's one of the army with Eldar that I have the most tournament game with.
Yes.
So like I was one of the first back in 9th also playing like Demon plus Tson at the time of AOC that list was also awesome. And then like naturally in ninth, I was looking to a codex in 10th, sorry, start of 10th in July for WTC, and Eldar was a bit boring at the time.
It really was,
So
yeah.
so I start to play Tsons again. So
Uh-huh.
got like the classic 100 reps with the army before WTC and play WTC with it. And
Yes.
then after that, I drop a bit for LGT period because I
Yeah.
wanted to change.
Hmm.
But it was always an army. I had good fun with it, and I was
Mm.
also always doing like some local tournament and stuff like that. So I knew it was still right there. And after the dataset, when like basically CSM disappear, which
Mm.
one like the biggest predator ever, and also like we might some like variation of list that I've you talking with other player and stuff, and the
Mm.
list evolve. Like the cultists, for example, are so
Hmm.
important actually in that list.
Yes.
So I mean, I will go later, I guess, a bit.
Yeah,
But
of course. They're,
so
they're
after,
actually my favorite Tsons using it at the moment. Cultists as well. I love them. They're so important.
so yeah, exactly. So after that, I wanted to test Tison a lot, and like the meta being like really balanced, quite drawish.
Yes.
Tison come into that in team, which is really important. They
Mm.
come into that and say a bit like, no, I'm not a drawish army. I'm gonna like go for big win and maybe have some matchup I don't really want to play. But in the end, even those matchup are quite okay. So like, but yeah, Tison is really a pusher army. I feel in
Yes.
team at least. I don't know if I would play Tison in single, but still an option. I think.
Yeah, it's
With
one of those things, isn't it, where I think there's a few things out there that make their life really difficult. As you say, I think they do have, because of the sheer damage and the trickery and the rule bending that they apply. They can put an opponent in an incredibly difficult position. Um,
exactly.
yeah, so let's sort of, I guess, talk about them in a more fundamental sense first, and then we can get into the kind of the specifics of what you're finding with them at the moment. If you're going to talk about kind of the sort of overall place of T-Suns in the game, what their kind of generic kind of powers, advantages, and weaknesses typically are. What is it about T-Suns that makes them strong, and what is it about them that maybe means they need to be protected in certain situations?
So basically, Tyson is probably one of the most damage dealer in the game. So
Yeah.
like, I like to call them infinite damage. So
That seems
so
reasonable. Yeah.
so you basically like have a lot of damage. Like
Hmm.
there is not a lot of defensive uh, barrier you can put against them, like involve, save, all of that doesn't really
Mm.
matter because you can do like 60 mortal wound and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's something absurd like this.
Yeah.
But so that's the strength,
Yeah.
but they are really skishy. Because in the end, we
Yeah.
are talking about like 25 tactical marine with a 5 up evolve
Yeah.
and 8 character and a
Yeah.
rhino and like 20 cultists. So
Yeah.
like the list is like really squishy. So it's fine as long as you can always manage what's coming at you. But by that I mean that if you control the game, you know
Yes.
you're not gonna lose a unit unexpected. It's fine. You can always deal with that. As long as there is like indirect or like fast flying army, that gameplay become harder because indirect is gonna pick units you didn't
Yeah.
want it to lose, stuff
Yes.
like that.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's where the kind of the faction resource, the Cabal points, is so important, isn't it? Because if you are using and losing that at a rate that you're happy with, you've got
Yeah,
a fantastic game. But as soon as you're like, oh, a couple of units went, I didn't want, now I'm dropping down the Cabal
yeah,
points, it can spin away. That's what I find with them that makes me uncomfortable when I'm playing them. It always feels like I'm on a knife edge because I'm not sure I control the games as well as I should.
yeah,
So it's like, okay, now I've lost one more sorcerer. Now I can't do the things I need to do,
yeah,
right? And that's the interesting bit. And as you say, there are a few things in the meta which can make that really difficult for them, especially as you've alluded to, characters are the way right now, right? It's a character heavy time for Thousand Suns. So let's just briefly trot back through, I guess, the fundamentals of the index. Obviously, this has had a bit of a rise and fall already. It felt like it got a glorious moment at WTC and then got probably nerfed a bit harder than some of the ones around it, or at least it seemed
yeah.
that way initially, right? It took a few knocks, but the core of this index remains extremely powerful. So if we
Yes.
talk just about the kind of the Cabal powers first and foremost, the baselines. I mean, we don't need to trot through all of them, but what do you, as a competitive player, which of the kind of key Cabal powers do you keep going back to, and what kinds of uses do you get out of them?
So the two best one obviously is the double move to
Yes.
position you. on the table is probably the stronger one actually, because
Yeah.
like you need to be able to hit your opponent, and like Tsons doesn't hit from far away, so like
No.
you need to go in range of those flamer.
Mm-hmm.
And the second best one is the Doombolt, because
Yes.
being able to like mortal wound away, like kill lone operative, like those 4 wound character, all of that is really important.
Yes.
So like that's the one I'm looking to use the most.
Yeah.
Then the third one, the strongest, is probably the reroll save, because it allows you to like use the Cabal you have remaining, because like they disappear at the end of the turn.
Yes.
So like sometime you're gonna have like you're gonna have 14 Cabal points, which will be like a double move, a Doombolt, and then a reroll save, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there is
sorry, after you carry on.
the two last one are good, but a bit more situational. So it's the no save for 9 Cabal point, which is really good in some matchup, but kind of expensive. So it's not often that you use it. And then the free strat sometimes come up, but it's a bit whatever now, because it's basically only for the free reroll hit and wound for psychic weapon. So it's a bit less useful than before.
Yeah, so the remove save one I remember was probably the most infamous when that index came out. Everyone was like, oh my word, look at this, it's terrifying. But as you say, it's expensive, it is situational when it's useful, and obviously Doombolt just pushing damage straight through before you even start attacking for cheaper.
And like
is really
most
nice.
of your army is dev wound anyway, and you're fishing for 6, so and you have like good AP ignore cover. Like it's okay, you don't really need like it's maybe like it's useful against some target. Like for example, when there is a field open against mortal wound, against a psychic weapon, you want to do the damage with the random flamer or the random bolt or stuff like that. But a lot less useful than double move and bolt.
Absolutely. And have you found, with sort of points rises and the changes to the army, have you found having enough Cabal points workable? I guess this explains the move to all the characters, right? Is it okay?
So I was a bit dumb at WTC. I was playing with not a lot of Cabal points. So I was playing a Rhino Rush army. So because everything was in Rhino, I never had a lot of Cabal points.
Okay.
And after that, I was okay, maybe I should try more Cabal points. And it's like, it's a bit addictive. So I did find like the hardest part of building a list in Tsons is actually make sure you have enough Cabal points while having some Rhino for mobility and stuff like that.
Yes.
So that's why you go to full character.
Yes.
So I find the correct number to be like you need to start on the table against most matchup with 19 Cabal points on the table on turn 1. Try to keep close to that on turn 2. And after that, normally the game is like in a state where you don't need that anymore. But 19 Cabal point is the perfect number.
Yes, yeah,
because
absolutely.
You can basically go double Doombolt and move back, which allow you to like control the course of the game in the early state, like dealing 10 mortal wound and hiding back or stuff like that. It's kind of good.
It's a good opener, right? Yeah. That's not a bad way to introduce yourself to someone. Yes. Yeah, very nice. And if we think about, I guess, kind of the enhancements, it felt like there was a bunch of good enhancements in this, but there's a few staples. I don't think these have really changed much over time, but I guess it's still the Infernal Master with the crazy damage, right? Is that still what you like?
Arcane Vortex Infernal Master.
Yeah, it just gives you an incredible Overwatch threat and a real damage dealer as well. And then obviously, so how do you tend to use or enjoy sort of Lord of Forbidden Law for the double tapping power? Because I've seen different people apply that in different ways.
So me, I'm putting that on a sorcerer unit.
Yep.
Because I have the 18-inch load up, which means that if I don't want them to die, they will never die. Because not so much for the double Doombolt, which is like really cool, really big. But in late game, sometimes the double Doombolt, the double warp time, the double movement is so big. So like keeping that alive is often important in close game, stuff like that.
Completely.
So I put that on a sorcerer squad to be load up.
Yeah, so he's not getting shelled. He's not getting picked up at a distance. And you can keep using it. Yeah, the move again is just so clutch because it's a weird army, isn't it? Where it's like it's not fast, but also it's really fast sometimes. But it needs that juice in order to get to the places in the game.
I see the army being really good to go in position. But sometimes when you're in the position, it's difficult to move back on the other position because you can like move a Rhino, disembark, move the squad outside. And you move like 20 inches, but then you are with a unit that will move like 5 to 6 inches, and you're there. Yeah, I'm not gonna go very far anymore.
No, absolutely. And do you take the umbralific crystal?
Yes, I do. On every basically, my list is 190, 40. I always have 60 points for those three enhancements
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
like the crystal is also really clutch.
Yeah.
Like it's not only like the crystal himself, it's also like the threat. Like
Yes.
because I never put anything in deep strike, but my opponent is always screening the board, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
there like that's cool, and it's also like you're losing hard on a flank, so you can either like leave that flank and left your opponent, or go run for summon that flank with the crystal. It's like really useful that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely. Shopping list of the reasons I lose more with Tsons than I win. I use that way too early every game.
Yeah, yeah,
It's so
no,
tempting. You're just like, oh, I just want
I
to
know.
go and get involved. But
I
as you say,
always
it's so powerful the longer you hold it, right?
Yeah, it's a game finisher in my opinion. So I
Yes. Yeah.
always use it turn 3-4
Yeah.
to like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
finish the game.
Yeah.
Either like I'm winning and I'm trying to winning bigger, or it's like close and it allow me to find the win
Yeah.
path.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, and so I mean, those are all just incredible, right? I'll be interested when a book finally comes. I don't know what they're going to cook up that's got better better tricks and toys than
Cult of
this.
duplicity. Cult of
Is
duplicity.
that what you want? Huh? He knows what he likes. Very, very good. And as far as the stratagems go, obviously there was a world where with the free strat before the changes, you could just be tapping all sorts of madness. But obviously now it's a little bit more constrained. So what
Yeah.
what kinds of stratagems do you tend to bake into your game plan? What are the most useful ones?
So the Tsons tend to play like often fix if they have the occasion. So like
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that much CP. Maybe I have one extra with cultist because when
Mm-hmm.
they die or kill a unit,
Yeah.
they generate some CP. So like most of the time it's like full reroll hit and wound on Magnus
Mm-hmm.
on early turn, and like
He loves that. Yeah.
a blank on Overwatch depending of the states, but more often than not you don't need the Overwatch because you know your opponent is going to be so scared of the Overwatch that he's not going to let you a good Overwatch, which is fine
Yeah. Yeah.
because like you put a lot of problem to him. So
Mm-hmm.
like turn 1-2 generally is like a free roll hit and wound and a blank if needed.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, turn 3, it's like some grenade strat.
Yeah.
I don't tend to use the or lost a lot. I know like a lot of people play a lot around like the no loss stratagem. I
Yes.
I don't because my opinion is that I should always lose Magnus. So I tend to be quite aggressive with Magnus. So he tend
Hey,
to
that's good to hear because I'm way too aggressive with Magnus.
yeah. I mean I am often too like sometimes I'm losing Magnus turn 1. I'm there. Was that necessarily to send him there? But I mean, more often than not, it's fine. But
Liam, this
like,
makes me feel so much better, man. This is amazing to hear. I love it.
so, so yeah, generally it's like pre-roll hit and wound early, then like you keep CP for like grenade, some
Mm-hmm.
like cloud charge, obviously. But the stratagem are good because like the blank often mean you're gonna leave some stuff you shouldn't have leave and stuff like that.
Yes.
But like they are not like 100% mandatory. Even like the hit and wound reroll, like there is often like a vector stuff, and then I don't use it anymore.
That's the thing. Yeah, I was going to say Vector's a real pain for that, and there's a lot of that about, right? So it's, yeah.
Like, like Magnus is not really the most damage dealer in the army anyway. It's the rubric squad.
Yes.
So like, and they don't need that because they have the reroll wound in build, so it's
Yeah.
okay.
So I think I'm just gonna take a detour to talking about Magnus because I wondered if you would be saying something like this because you're famous for being a sort of overload creator, right? You cause a ton of problems. You often play very aggressively, and you get a lot of advantages out of chaos in many different ways. A chaos that you kind of know what's going on, but they often don't.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Magnus because I know a lot of T-Cells players who are super cagey with Magnus, but this is a more sort of use him to create problems kind of mentality. Then sort of get him up in the
Yes.
face.
But Magnus have a good defensive profile,
Mm-hmm.
and the army is not resilient. So
Yeah.
my idea is that often I want my opponent to direct his killing power into Magnus. So
Yes.
even if I'm gonna lose Magnus on turn 2, 3, if it's gonna be fine if I'm in a certain game state
Mm.
and where I can like punish everything that come out to kill Magnus, stuff like that. And
Mm.
so like I tend to lose Magnus, and like I always say if you didn't lose Magnus, you could have scored more, probably. like
I love it.
You have to lose Magnus to go in that, because obviously I'm not a single player. I'm like a pusher.
No, of course, of course.
I'm going for 20-0. Where like playing Magnus like secure defensively, which means that he doesn't die, but also mean that maybe you could like go in that game
state. It's a control, right? It's more gradual. Yeah.
You need to go in that end game scoring, end game like state, like where everything is so close, and you need to play on the line of like losing, winning to be actually winning more.
Yeah.
It's sometimes difficult to do, but like that's my mentality overall.
It absolutely is. I was going to say, it's music to my ears to hear that, because I say when I first started playing them, I was playing them very aggressively, and I was getting told off. But I just need to do it better, is what you're saying.
So generally, turn 1 and 2 Magnus, you take like the short angle. You go out, but like you where you can only be hit by one tank or stuff like that, which you're gonna tank no problem. And then the turn you drop everything, you need to send Magnus in his opponent way, in the opponent DZ, in a way that either they deal with the rubric or they deal with Magnus, and like generally they will deal with Magnus because they're scared of him or stuff like that. But I don't really rate Magnus that high in my army, so it's fine if I lose him.
As you say, it is one of those things where there's so much damage coming out of the other squads that if you can apply all of this at once, then as you say, you're putting them in an impossible position, right? They're making an impossible choice. And I think I often see people playing them where it's sort of Magnus is sort of playing a bit part role on his own. The rest of the army's kind of hanging out and helping out now and again, but it's not that same aggression. And as you say, in a team setting where you want to put the shutdown on, you need to get involved and get going and make things happen, right? Okay. Very, very interesting. I assume as far as the buffs to the psychic weapon goes, you're just a dev wounds all the time guy, right? I mean, I don't really know. Don't see much case for switching between that.
Yeah, because the important part is like sometimes if you're only gonna shoot with Magnus, you tend to say like sustain, but like the problem is like the little gun is not dev wound, so like having like mortal one on it is quite important. Sometimes to finish a tank or stuff. You do 9 with the big, you need the extra 4. And dev wound, because it's only P1, make it so sure. And then also you need to think about like potential overwatch, maybe some melee, because like all those stuff that become suddenly dev wound is really big.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like I always say dev wound.
Okay, yeah, wonderful. And one other point I wanted to pick on was that you mentioned that Tsons go fixed, and that's not something I've tried. Is that like kill fixed or?
So it depends. So yeah, if there is kill fix, like I would never go like cleanse Homer. It's like either the table is favor for Homer or cleanse, and against some matchup I know I can take that, or it's like bring it on assassinate. Like each time I see more than like 34 points on those together, I will say okay, bring it on assassination. Like, because realistically, I'm not scoring more than 34 on tactical, so just go like bring it on assassination, and it's fine.
And that frees quite an elite army up to just focus on doing what it's good at, right? Which is obliterating things. Yeah. Yeah, very, very nice. Okay, so let's start getting into some of the units. Obviously, we've alluded to a few of them already. Magnus seems to be just auto-include for Tsons in this edition so far. But what do you tend to take to back him up?
So, I mean, the basic is like 5 rubric squad, I would say. Like that's generally over every list are at right now, 5 rubric squad.
Okay.
And you put 5 character in it. I mean, there is other variants where there is 4 character and 6 rubric squad. I prefer 5 character and 5 rubric squad to generate a bit more Cabal points. Then there is a bit of debate. So I think one of the big debate is like either you put Ahriman in a squad or alone. Like, I don't like Ahriman in a squad because actually his gun is quite bad. And
he's not very dangerous, is he? He's all right in melee, but that's about
good in melee, but like generally me, I don't put Ahriman in a squad anymore. So it's gonna be basically 3 Infernal Master. I think that's like the core.
Yeah.
And 2 Sorcerer me to allow me to play a bit more if I need. I play defensive, like I play Astra Militarum because I fucked up in pairing or something like that. I'm gonna be able to bring like 6 to 8 points still, so like stuff like that. So 2 sorcerer, 3 Infernal Master in those rubric squad, and then those units become really, really good at damage because like with the reroll wounds, all those flamer or like Fire of the Abyss from the sorcerer, the sustain 3 weapon,
It's so
suddenly
good.
do a lot of damage. Like it's
Yeah, if
incredible.
people haven't played against this, you've got a pistol on the sorcerer, which is a bunch of shots with sustain 3. And so obviously if you're re-rolling hits and wounds or something at some point with that, it gets really silly.
Sometimes it gets it's so dumb. I sometimes thought about like putting Arcane Vortex on a sorcerer.
Yeah, I've thought about it as well.
that,
I've definitely thought about it. And you're like, one day that would do like 16 mortals or something, and it'd be great. It'd be great, but it's like the flame is just so versatile.
The flamer is better for Overwatch and more reliable.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yes, we've got a good base of rubrics and characters, and as you say, so Ahriman solo, I guess that kind of means he's just free to use his Cabal thing when he feels like.
Yeah, like I like Ahriman solo. It's like an objective holder, and like he gives me the 3 Cabal per turn plus the turn I need the free Cabal. I tend to use it early, and then like he's good in melee, so he's gonna sometime like go end up like a lone character or random shit like this, but. It's like not really important, but you could lead it. You could lead a unit with him, give the +1 to wound to rubric, but nowadays you're not really playing like the big blob of flamer that you could have saw like before the data set. You don't have the point to do that anymore. So like mainly Ahriman alone, most of like me in my list right now it's Ahriman alone.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do any of the other characters make it in? Obviously, we've got sorcerers, infernal masters. Anything else in there for you?
You have obviously the Exalted on Disc, which is quite good. I'm a bit so on them because they're really good to slow units.
Yeah.
But like I tend to not slow unit anyway because I'm like sometimes it's gonna be really important and I'm gonna roll that 1. So I feel I need 2 to make sure and I cannot fit 2. So you could like it's either Ahriman alone or 2 Exalted. The points are so tight right now. So so you could run Exalted on this. They are really good. And I'm testing a Shaman as well.
The little goat guy.
The little Shaman.
Yeah.
With us. So I'm testing that right now. I will see if that works out. In my previous list, it was not there, but I'm trying to put the crystal on a Shaman unit with 20 Sangor. So that
interesting. Okay. Hey, that's amazing.
I want to test that. The idea is like being like the absolute move block because you can like deep strike. And then if you move next to Magnus, you can move 8 after deep strike, which is basically a 1-inch deep strike. So
Liam,
you can,
that sounds evil because doesn't he give them a feel no pain as well?
Yeah, they give them a feel no pain, so they're a bit tankier. And you move block it, and Sangor are also too. So you can steal like every objective on the map if needed, stuff like that.
Yeah, wow, that sounds really fun. I like that. That's awesome.
So I want to test that. We will see if that work, but like obviously, generally the crystal goes on a rubric squad that goes on the side. Try to screen like the site where not a lot's gonna happen, and then come back in the game later with the crystal.
Yeah,
but so those characters are good. I heard about some Demon Prince also. I like so the flying Demon Prince could be good as well because he basically has the up and go ability.
Oh, does he? Interesting. Okay.
So it's kind of okay to like take angle and like do some doom bolt or need it warp time. So I want to test him as well. He's kind of interesting too.
That sounds really interesting, yeah. Because obviously, I mean, for so much of the abilities in the army, you just need that one wizard to just sneak an angle somewhere and get an eye. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it sounds like there's still more to cook in here. That's really interesting. Okay, really, really cool. And then as far as like the utility units, the cheaper stuff, what do you like? There's obviously a bunch of little options.
So I at least want 1 Rhino. I would like to fit 2 Rhino, but the problem is if I fit 2 Rhino, I don't get my 19 Cabal points, which is like, it's like a big to ask. So I'm riding 1 Rhino right now, which is kind of important because it allows you to do a lot of mobility tricks, like moving the Rhino, disembarking, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then like in my last list, I had like 20 cultists and 10 Sangor. So trying to like move blocking and holding the backfile. Like Sangor are also 2, so they're like okay to screen the backfile, generate some extra Cabal point on 4+, and do that kind of stuff. And the 20 cultists with the move blocking, like the pre-game move and move blocking.
Yeah, so these I've been. That's one thing I have really enjoyed. So the Thousand Suns cultist scout move, go and stand in the way, and they get you a CP when someone
Yeah,
kills them. That's not bad, is it, for a
they
CP
are
in
not
every
bad
army?
at all.
Yeah,
And they also have some random flamer. Like I played against a Tyrannid. It was really funny. He will always poop up like the spore mine. And me, I was pooping the flamer, killing the spore mine, and generate a CP because that also works when
getting
you kill a
CP off.
uni.
I've always looked at that and be like, yeah, I mean, I'm never going to kill anything, but okay, that's a situation I can bank on. Then if there's spore mines around, I can barbecue them.
Yeah, so that was cool. Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. I'm testing like another version with the 20 Sangor, so I have a bit less chaff. I only have 10 cultists and 3 unlighted. The
Mm-hmm.
unlighted are also good because they are OC2. They move
Yes.
10, so you
Yes.
can like fly them quite, like move 20 in a turn to like go deny an objective stuff.
Yeah, they're lovely little objective stealers, right? If someone parks
Yeah,
just a vehicle on there, you're like, nope, nicking that.
exactly. So
And they're one of those things where, because of the double move possibilities, you can get around Overwatch as well, which is one thing I
yeah,
love. I love it with Thousand Suns, right? You can just sneak out and dodge Overwatch. Okay, so
exactly.
a nice mix of tools there. Poor old Chaos Spawn don't make it in at the moment.
Right now they're a bit expensive, but I
Yeah.
love them. They are like so tanky. So
Mm,
like 5 up invul, 5 up Philopane. They are only OC1, but they are
mm,
beast and move 8. So those one I would love to have them, but they are a bit expensive right now
mm,
because
mhm.
65 doesn't make quite. So I rather have like 10 Sangor or 10 cultists right now because
Yeah.
we are still in a Rhino meta, and like
Yes.
wrapping transport and stuff is just so important that I
Yeah,
will
and so
just keep
this
that.
is some of the beautiful stuff you can do, right? If someone's staging a Rhino, Cultist or
Yeah,
Zangor run up, then you move again and just get this big, huge
yeah,
bubble of stuff around, right? And that you stay in there.
yeah.
Excellent. Okay. I mean, that sounds like yes. I was keeping an eye on a few lists over the last few weeks, and yeah, it sounds like the direction things have gone, and people have moved away from things like Mutalith, Vortex Beasts, and Terminators and
Yeah.
Forge Fiends. All a bit too expensive, would you say, or
Yeah,
is it just how they interact?
so there is a build I know with like a Demon Prince and like 3 Mutalate, 3 Force
Yeah.
Fiend
Uh-huh.
that exists. I don't really because in the end all of that is quite expensive and the
Yes.
damage is so like
Hmm.
Mutalate are kind of cool but too expensive to me. And
Yes.
like I'm going to try to go in 18 anyway, so the extra range doesn't really like
Yes.
it's not impactful. It's mainly for the profile is quite okay, but 3 is a bit expensive. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
165 is like
Yeah, as I
it's
say, the appeal for me with the Mutalith was always that you could stand off and be further away. But as it says, it sounds with your game plan where I say you're bringing stuff to them, you're going to get involved. You don't
yeah,
need to worry about that.
exactly.
Okay, wonderful. Right, I mean, let's think a little bit about this from a sort of matchups standpoint. Then, obviously, you were at Alpine, were you recently as well?
Correct.
So, if there's any kind of examples you want to work in from that in terms of the matchups, I'd be very interested to hear about it because yeah, they've obviously come back into the thinking of teams, and so I'm curious
Yes.
from your perspective, what's brought that about, right? Because I think they weren't necessarily on the radar of a couple of months ago, but now suddenly people are very much in favor of them again. So what is it in the wider meta that means they suddenly have re-entered as having a place?
So basically, they have really good matchup in some matchup like some army that are like annoying. Like for example, like Necron,
Yes.
Tsons have a good matchup into that. You have
Okay.
a good
Yeah.
matchup into like some mech Grenite. A
Yes.
bit less into like the Terminator Grenite,
Yeah, I don't like the Terminator variant.
but the mech Grenite is kind of good. Like you know those Land Raider and stuff. Like
Yes.
they
Yeah.
disappear against the sun, so all of that.
Yeah.
They're also quite good against like some Drowish army like Custodes and Death Guard. Those
Yes.
two armies just fall apart against Tyson. So like it's really good to be able to push some Drowish army that wanted to like, get a draw. And then Tyson come and say, no, I'm gonna get a 15 over that.
Yeah.
So all of that is like really good.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And as you say, I think, yeah, teams thinking in general was leaning towards, yeah, stodgy armies that are just going to tie you up and score lots of points, Necrons and Death Guard, but you've got enough damage that you just go right through that. That's
Yes.
interesting. Okay. And how did your experience of them go at Alpine? What did you learn and what did you play anything into anything particularly interesting in your games?
So, I mean, me in Alpine, I was really the pusher mentality. So
Yeah.
I was trying to get the easy match in a way.
Hmm.
So in the end, I played one Demon, one Death Guard. I played one Votan. I
Oh, poor
played
Votan.
an Eldar.
Yeah.
And I played, what was my last match? I played, let me think, Votan, Eldar, and a Ward Eater. in the
Okay.
World Eater.
Okay.
I mean, actually, the Votan was probably the hardest matchup of all of that because with the push from the pre-game move and stuff, it's not easy to play as Thousand Sun against Votan. You need to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
careful
If they get bees
because
on you, they kill you hard, right? Yeah.
they kill you easily.
Mm.
But like all those rest of the matchup, so like World Eater, for example, with 20 cultists, is just unplayable for the World Eater. Like if you go first, you're gonna screen at 1 inch, he's all dizzy, and you're gonna kill half and then table him on turn 2. It's not even funny. So like World Eater is really really easy. It's a
Mhm.
big counter to that. Then like I said, Death Guard. I play Death Guard as well, so I know every trick. So it's like
Yes.
a easy match. And then what else? And Eldar. So actually, Eldar, we built in my team. We built an Eldar list that beat Tsons reliably with
Mm.
15 plus. But if you don't run that kind of build, like the really MSU
Yeah. It
aspect
has
warrior,
to be, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
it's like for my opponent was playing like Avatar and 3D Cannon, which
Oh no.
that just died to Tsons because the
Yeah.
Avatar, I look at him and he disappear. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I think those Eldar lists of a little while ago that were sort of bully lists, Tsons love because you can just, you can just
yeah,
flatten Wraithguard or Avatar or Incarn. Doesn't matter; they're all going to die. But it's the mass go wide MSU aspects is actually a little bit
yes.
trickier, just because you get a bit locked and they can get into you in places you don't want to get hit. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, Tyson doesn't want to control the game, but like Eldar just gonna say, "Fuck, I'm gonna move 24 inch spider
Yeah.
and flame you to death," and yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that definitely adds some challenges. Okay, yeah. So it sounds then that they are in a sort of attacking, quite heavyweight, quite punchy place, but you have to get
Yes,
the matchups right. That's interesting.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, often my matrices are quite green.
Mm,
Like the only matchup I would say that are kind of hard is like I say, Terminator Grey Knight is a bit annoying.
mm.
Then you have Astra Militarum, obviously, that is uh, uh, it's possible, but it's so fucking annoying to be shot in direct that I don't want to try that.
Yeah.
And then you have like Eldar MSU.
Mm, mm.
And then sometime I would say also Iron Storm with a Whirlwind. If there
Of
is no
course.
Whirlwind,
Yeah.
if there are no indirect, it's fine. But like, there's extra damage that you don't control is always fucking you a bit. So the Whirlwind is really annoying. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there is some other matchup that is annoying, but like I didn't play every matchup yet, so yeah,
No,
difficult
of
to tell.
course. You're still
Like,
early days. But as you say, I think it's just because it's an army with a genuine like toolkit.
yeah,
It can solve different problems and it can cause new problems for different armies
exactly.
and that's it sounds like from say you're an Eldar and a Tsons man, you just like the tricks, right? Like having a big bag of tricks to bring to the table and
Yes.
keep the opponent honest. So I can see exactly why in skilled hands they're definitely an appealing option. I'm going to have to try and actually get good at them now, Liam. You've set me up to fail. I'm going to have a few more difficult events until I figure this out. But so okay, I mean, I think it sounds like that's covered all the kind of ins and outs that I was interested in as far as the army and its place. There's some really interesting stuff going on there, and it's very exciting that it has reemerged. Because I know coming out the last slate, I thought it was going to be Death Guard for months. I'll be honest. I thought that was it for Death Guard and maybe Demons, but Tsons seem to have kind of reestablished themselves, which is very exciting.
Yes.
Because it sounds from your mention of Cult of Duplicity, it sounds like we've got a genuine Tsons fan here. I'm going to ask you to indulge me. What sorts of things would you be interested to see in the future for like a Tsons book? What kinds of things would you like to add to this big tool, this big bag of tricks?
Imagine like hypercryptison. That could be like something like that could be really fun. But like, I'm not a rules writer, but like, I,
Mm.
I don't I don't know how they could balance that because like the problem with like deep striking Tyson is like if there is like all those like grenade hypercrypt stuff, you
Mm.
lose Cabal points, so that could be fine. But yeah. But to be
Yes.
fair, right now Tysons have a lot of tricks. I don't know how I would change stuff.
Yeah, no,
Like
that's it. It feels incredibly expressive, right?
so, I think to be fair, maybe some balance to that. Maybe the Cabal points are a bit too strong because like Doombolt is maybe a bit stronger than too strong, but
Oh, I don't want to
we
quit
will see.
Doombolt. Yeah,
We
I
will
think
see.
I'd like to see some stuff as far as it'd be nice to see the Terminators be an option
Yeah,
and
an
be a
option.
consideration.
Maybe
Um,
like a non-Magnus build as well. Like
yeah, exactly that. At the moment, it really is Magnus or bust. So a mix between Magnus and other stuff would be great. I think that would be really nice to have. But as I say, it's one of those ones where again the initial index feels so flavorful and dynamic. You're like,
yeah,
I don't know where you take this. And it's very hard to imagine what you're going to add that's going to make it work. Okay, well, wonderful. I think that's everything I wanted to cover today. That was a really, really useful, informative little session. Have you got any other little tricks or tools you want to sort of bestow on the listener before we finish up, Liam?
Like this, no. I mean, no. Sorry, I
Hey,
don't have
that's
any.
no problem at all. The most important thing is that you've told me to play aggressively, and that's what I'm here for, because I love that stuff. Thank you so much for coming on. Been an absolute pleasure, and I really hope that you continue to take a bunch of names in the run up to WTC. And thank you to our listeners, and we'll be back again next time. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.